Didn't you share a plant with Matt Pottage of Wisley?
It's actually one of my plants today. Can I show you?
Yeah, please do.
It's a variegated ficus carica. See, so it is like a normal ficus carica, but it's got this marbling effect all over the leaves. And it's called Jolly Tiger. I saw it on eBay. I visited Matthew Pottage at Wisley and just had a catch up with him. And I said, Matthew, I found this plant now. And I said, it is so beautiful, but it is also so expensive. And I said, it's a variegated fig. And he said, it's not Jolly Tiger, is it? I said, yeah. He said, I've been looking for ages, and you can only get it in America normally. He said, I'll go halves with you.
Hello and welcome to episode 90 of Talking Dirty. Alan Gray got the baby blue memo again. He's looking all powdery blue on this lovely warm day. Our happy and handsome horticulturist over at East Ruston Old Vicarage.
And there is Thordis Maria Sophia Fredriksson in her jolly stripy green sweater, looking absolutely fantastic. I tell you one thing, I'm so envious because our guest today, not only has he got a surprise up his sleeve, but he's also had rain, and we have not.
Us over in East Anglia, absolutely parched. And over in Leeds at the glorious Yorkgate Garden, we have their current head gardener. More on that in just a second. Ben Preston, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
And you have had much precipitation, even this morning.
We've had a lot of precipitation, and it's only just, thankfully it has stopped because we've got a photography workshop here today. And Clive turned up this morning and was like, is this going to stop? And I said, I think so. But yeah, we've had a real soak in the last couple of days. I was actually down in Fuller's Mill a couple of weeks ago in Suffolk. And I mean, it really is parched down your way compared to us. Even when we didn't have the rain, it was like the savannah driving through parts of Suffolk. And as I drove back up the A1, it got greener and greener. So we've definitely are not as warm and dry. But yeah, we've had a proper dousing, and then that really fine rain that completely soaks it through. So we are back to, and we managed to keep the garden well watered with it being so small and having a borehole. So yeah, fingers crossed. We've weathered the storm. Hope you get some rain soon.
Yeah, I'm going to rip half my plants out and just replace them with desert plants because it's getting that way in Cambridgeshire.
Well, there's a thought there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I would be inspired after finally getting to come and see Yorkgate and how wonderful it is, and that fantastic sand bed that you have near the cafe area. So much inspiration. People can go and read that in one of our recent newsletters, and of course hear more about Yorkgate in your first ever appearance on the podcast. But today, I think not only talking about Yorkgate, but a new, very exciting venture in your life, because actually by the time people are watching this, you won't have many hours at Yorkgate left.
No, I suppose I'm making the mad jump of giving up lots of security in a lovely garden and starting afresh. So I'm setting up, well, me and my partner Laura were setting up re-establishing Cliffbank Nursery, which is about 7 miles from here between Harrogate and Leeds. And yeah, I just want to grow up. I've realised over the last 5 years how much I love growing plants and propagating plants and exploring and growing new things and trialling. And I've built up enough knowledge and contacts now to actually fledge the gardening nest and go it alone, which is a big step and it's a big challenge. And yeah, I mean, I like a challenge as well. I think it's great, and we're absolutely loving every minute of it. I know you popped down to see it a few weeks back, and it really is a blank canvas.
You've done so much already, though. I mean, I was astonished at the amount you'd cleared and your vision for the place, which is what, 7 acres?
It's just over 7.5 acres, and 4 of that is woodland. And the woodland, I say woodland in a very loose term, it's more a collection of untidy trees. But we're going to leave that till next winter because it's sort of overwhelming the whole site, and we're going to focus on the area that we're cultivating, which to give you a bit of backstory, there was in fact the chap that ran it for many years, Joe Maiden, he had a radio show for 40 years on Radio Leeds, sort of the similar role Alan does in Norfolk, veg gardener, and he had the nursery up to about 8 years ago, and unfortunately he passed away. But he grew sweet peas. That was a lovely sweet pea named after his wife Betty Maiden. I think there was a lovely, I think it was an exhibit at Chelsea one year, and Bob Geldof said that Betty smelt wonderful. And that was a bit of the big thing at the time. But yeah, so there's a bit of history there. Everybody knows where the site is. He grew sweet peas. He sold seed potatoes. He had a great veg garden. So there's a bit of a legacy there. And he was Grow with Joe. And there's a lot of links actually. He spent a lot of time at Yorkgate. He's got a book called Grow with Joe that he published 15 years ago. And you open it up and it's pictures of Yorkgate, of Cliffbank, the site, and Golden Acre, which I've got a plant that I actually saw at Golden Acre in for later. So yeah, a lot of history there. And anyway, but it has gone to rack and, it's not been cultivated for a long time. Lots of perennial weeds. There's horsetail, there's creepy thistle, there's bindweed. And we've got,
three of my favourites.
Yeah, all the best things. Do you know what? They didn't bat an eyelid with the lovely drought either. It tells you something.
It does.
So we're clearing. We've got 6 wonderful piggies to clear the land a few weeks ago, which are aptly named after the real royal family from Manchester, the sitcom: Jim, Barbara, Dave, Denise, Twiggy, and Cheryl. Barbara's a bit of a biter, it turns out. She bit one of my mates at the weekend and drew blood, so that was quite funny. It was a mate that I wanted to be bitten as well, so it's quite good. But they've added so much character to the site, and we spend time with them. They've become very affectionate already. They're all in. It's integral to what we want to do. It's about the woodland management. It's about the clearing of the land. We're going to have chicken. There's going to be a little bit of the good life as well. It's going to be Yorkgate meets for a cottage room. And actually, it's just about stripping it back and doing something that I want to do and exactly how I want to do it. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'm going to grow the plants that I like. Plants will only be sold that I like. We're going to do workshops, but it's going to be about the experience of coming to Cliffbank and there'll be a kettle and there'll be a make yourself a cup of tea sign rather than a cafe. So it's really exciting. We're absolutely, people have been overwhelmingly generous with the knowledge and equipment, and you only need to go to the shows this year and see how fewer nurseries there are at a lot of the shows and the plant fairs. So I think it's a great time to be setting up. And I'm going to be gardening one day a week in a private garden from a few weeks' time, just to keep my hand in.
Lucky
a lovely
them.
Private garden. I'm going to be just doing the borders and that. So it's great. Obviously, I'm going to miss you, Yorkgate, and the wonderful team and all the people and what we've achieved over the last few years, and seeing it sort of settle in a little bit. I'm a man that likes a challenge and I like it in the deep end, so I thought I'd jump back in the deep end.
And we featured Jack Ogg on this podcast, so people can go, and if they missed it, definitely watch his episode. It was full of extraordinary plants. So the planty side of Yorkgate, definitely in safe hands with him, and the lovely Mark as well. So it's not like it's going to be left floundering by any stretch.
No, we've actually, it's been, I gave 6 months notice to make sure that it was a big transitional period and we could get everything right. But yeah, Jack's taking over as obviously the head garden, and he's expect more of the weird and wonderful. He's a great plantsman, he's a real live wire. He's a comedian, really. So I expect a lot of fun and a lot of more wonderful plants. And he's got his own ideas of what I think is going to super bloom the sand, and he's got his own ideas. So we've really worked together over the past sort of 5 years, and he's going to take on the mantle, which is great because it's, bringing a new head gardener into a garden with new philosophies, new thoughts. It completely changes everything. And obviously Jack will have his ways of doing things, but fundamentally what we've done together for the past 5 years is going to carry on. And it's very exciting for him as well.
When I came and had a little look at the site at Cliffbank, there were already little clusters of plants kind of growing, these pots, the start of the planty side of the nursery. Actually, you very kindly gifted me a Dianthus I know you really love, which I've gone and put in a happy part of my garden, and it makes me full of joy whenever I see it and think of my lovely trip up to Harrogate and Leeds and Yorkgate. And so do you immediately, like when you set about doing this nursery, were there plants you thought, right, they are first on the list, they are the ones I want to grow and sell?
Absolutely. I think they're probably the ones with the most nostalgia, to be honest. The plants that I've loved and been given by gardeners or friends, and have generally got a bit of the story to them. And they were like, some of them are people might not like, but It's about it's the people and the plant connection that I really, really admire and love. I mean, Alan knows this from receiving plants and giving plants, and like the atrocyanea that you've got growing at East Ruston. But things, the Dianthus that you're talking about, Elizabethan pink, I mean, that's just, you know, I went to Jimmy Blake's 2019, and it was growing just as you come into the garden, it was growing over the wall. He couldn't even remember the name of it. He said, oh, but it's the best Dianthus. So I took some cuttings, back just some little pipings, and they went in a Sainsbury's carrier bag with a load of other cuttings, all sorts of stuff. And yeah, they were in the back of the car for 5 days. Just with a Sainsbury's carrier bag with a knot tied in the top of it.
They're the best kind, Ben.
Best kind.
Yeah.
So we come back from Ireland and then got in the potting shed. Anyway, they all nearly everything rooted that we had in this bag. Anyway, this wonderful Dianthus Elizabethan pink, it's been in cultivation since 1700. And it's just the most amazing. It's sort of white with a dark purple centre. It doesn't flower for a massive amount of time, but the flower is, Thordis, it's just the most beautiful plant. And it's quite lax habit, so it wants to be grown in a little trough or a pot. And then Derry came. Derry Watkins came, I don't know, a few months ago to the garden. She was going to the Hepworth, and then she rang me and said, I'm coming to Yorkgate in 20 minutes. I was like, cool, right, all right, see you in a minute. And we were walking round and we saw the Dianthus, and it turned out that she'd given Jimmy the plant some years before, and that she'd no longer had it. And she said, can I? So I gave her the plant back. So it'd gone full circle. So Derry gave it to Jimmy, and then I give it back to Derry. So anyway, and now I've given one to Thordis, and it's a wonderful, wonderful plant, and very, very easy to take. The little sort of Dianthus pipings, as they're called, which are just sort of, you literally just pull the tips, the unflowered tips out, and they root readily. So that'll be for sale next year in the nursery.
I think that tale that you just told, it illustrates, we can all relate to that as gardeners, that we've all had something, lost it, given it away, but we got it back because we gave it away. So, I mean, that relates to a hell of a lot of people, I think. And I love the idea that you just said, Dianthus Elizabethan pink doesn't flower for that long. There are not many plants that do flower for that long if you analyse it. I mean, I know there's plants like Geranium Rozanne, which starts in July and goes right the way through to October. There's one or two like that, but most border plants, they have a set season.
They do,
yeah. Not agree?
No, you're right. I think it's because we thirst for plants that flower and flower and flower. I've got a few today that flower for quite a long time, but yeah, you're right. I think it's picking that season. And I think the other thing about setting up a nursery is, as much as we all try to plan in advance, we like to buy things in flower, and actually picking. And I've spoken to various nurserymen, and most people buy plants in April, May, and June. April, May, and June are the busiest, especially April and May, the busiest months of the year. So it makes sense to have a good amount of plants that look good in April and May. Yeah. And then you can have things to fill later on. And so we're building up a plant list that's not just, it's got to be clever as well. I'm not going to have thousands of plants on the plant list. I want to grow, 400 or 500 that are really good plants, rather than growing 2,000 plants that I'm growing them for the sake of it.
Yeah, but how many geraniums do you need?
Exactly. Well, geraniums is a really interesting one, because me and Mark were sat down and were saying, I'm not going to grow many geraniums. And I was thinking, I like that one. No, I like that one. But I mean, talking geraniums, I've not got one because I wasn't going to dig it. You've just reminded me of it. Wlassovianum Lakwijk Star is definitely going to be on my list. Yeah. Wonderful. I went to East Lambrook, 3 or 4 years ago. They grow lots of geraniums, and that's their standout geranium. Wlassovianum, it's a weird spelling, it's WV. Wlassovianum Lakwijk Star. And it's got a lovely purple flower, but grow it more for its emerging foliage and its autumn colour. Yeah. You don't have to cut it back. Wonderful orange sort of tinge to the leaves, which you don't get with a lot of geranium. You just mentioned two things there: the emergent foliage and the autumn colour, both of which are at the start and the back end of the year. Perfect. A lot of people are not going to realise that, but I mean, that plant gives you 3 seasons of interest. Absolutely, yeah. It just keeps giving. And it's good. And I think plants like that are ones that, they're the ones that will make the cut. Yeah. And the end things that, I mean, I love Tiny Monster, I love Dilys. You know, I'm probably going to choose one. I'm not going to grow both. I'm going to try and narrow it down. So it's interesting.
Yeah, you've got more discipline than I have. That's
well,
sure,
we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know whether he has or not, Thordis. We can resist everything except temptation.
Yeah.
Only time will tell.
We'll see.
It is so exciting. And of course, if people want to follow the Cliff Bank adventure, you are being really good on Instagram, posting videos and little updates. And I know Laura, your other half, is kind of keen on keeping everybody updated on there and filming you. And you're very good at it. So people need to follow. Well. You got the scythe out the other month. You were scything pole dark style. Well, not quite.
Yeah, not quite. A bit more ginger and a bit round around the middle. But yeah, no, the scythings are really. In fact, that's something. I mean, there's going to be no strimmers at Cliff Bank. There'll be no lawns either, for that matter. But yeah, I mean, I love scything. I think it's a really useful. I mean, that little video I put up, I was doing docks, and the same technique can be used for brambles and things. But I think, you know, some modern machinery is very good and makes the job much quicker. I don't believe a strimmer is one of them things. If you can use a scythe correctly and keep it in sharp and get the technique right, I can scythe quick and I can strim. And that's not me being all bravado. Like, you know, there's people much slighter and not nowhere near as physically strong as I am, that are great with scythes. You see little old ladies in Romania that are in their 80s using scythes, and it's not about the pace. And it's easy to collect. You know, strimmers smash it all to bits and it goes everywhere. Getting it clean cut with the scythe and collecting it all in one, and I just love the process of it as well. It's such a great thing, and people just.
It's a therapeutic process, I think, and the key to scything, I always think, is keeping your blade sharp. I mean, I remember grandfather scything, and he would do 3 or 4 slashes with the scythe, sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. You know, not great 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, that kind of thing. And I think still today, some of our churchyards are scythed at the end of the summer.
Yeah, they are. And I think it's becoming, a lot of the older crafts have become more popular again, and there's a good movement. I got taught by the wonderful Steve Tomlin. He's over at Manchester now, and he's really, you know, perfected his technique, and you know, it's an art watching him.
It's an art scything.
It is an art, yeah, and it's something that we want to pass on and share and show that it's not, you know, it's not as difficult as it might look.
Yeah,
but yeah, so things like that, and you know, fence building with the woven hazel like we've done at Yorkgate. All these things are going to build up the aesthetic that we want, and it's going to be a bit more, I suppose, wholesome and a bit of the full package, and getting back into growing veg, you know. Something that me and Laura have really tackled. You know, Laura, she's quickly becoming a gardener. We're doing the veg garden together. We're getting a little polytunnel that will be growing right through the year, and it's great, and it's something that we can do together. That's not, you know, the nursery is going to be my, you know, it's going to be my source of income and work, and we're going to do the veg garden together as sort of as still as a hobby. Whether all this plays out as I say is another thing altogether. But
just also be careful, because when people like me come to visit, we will not want to leave.
Yeah, well, and I think that's the nice thing, having a spare room and having people come and stay, and having an open door policy is what we want. We want as many people to come. You know, it's like when we went to stay with Alan and had that lovely, you know, you remember these things for a long time, and becomes it's really special, and you can talk about the memories. And I think that's what we want. That's what we're trying to create. We want to create something where people really remember coming, and then they'll take a couple of, you know, I don't want people to take carloads of plants. We'll take a few plants and come on a course and come and stay. And yeah, it's all about that lovely feeling that you get when you come away satisfied and inspired by somebody else's garden. So
I'm so excited for it. I mean, I didn't want to leave, and I only came when it was, you know, still
mud and
quite
weeds.
A lot of weeds.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's so nice to have seen that, because you've got the before and you've got the after to look forward to.
Yeah, I am very much looking forward to it. I mean, talking about getting satisfied and inspired, that is what this podcast is all about as well. Without visiting a garden, we just get the planty side of things. And I can see people have been taunted through this bit of the conversation by all these little flowers, these little spikes of plants peeping behind you over your shoulder. You've got a supporting cast. So show and tell feels imminent. Where would you like to start?
Right. Do you know what? I've gone a bit. There's a bit of the story behind some of these. I've got 2 plants in this. I'm going to start with the Dahlia. I'm going to put the rose to one side. Right. This links locally. I went up to ashamedly Golden Acre Park, which is just up the way, which is actually a council-run garden. They've got a few national collections, or they have had in the past, largely hostas. They've got Deutsches at one of the Lincoln Gardens. But anyway, they've got what they call the speciality gardens there, and they've got the National Daily Society have a plot. And we went up last autumn. I've lived around this area for a long time. I went there as a child, but wonderful, wonderful. And these daily trials, and there's a lovely, they have a little competition. And they've got all these dahlias lined out, and there's a little slip of paper in a box. And they are the people's favourite dahlia. And it's just the people walking through the park, that pop in there. And this is the one that I chose. So I've grown it at Yorkgate this year. I've never seen it before. And it's Hadrian Summerwine. And it's got lovely dark foliage, but hopefully this will do it justice. But it's a simple sort of deep pink purple with lovely, and it's just good foliage. It's got strong stems. And we had a lovely evening up there. It was a lovely summer's evening last sort of September, October. And it was just a joy to come across this speciality garden with chrysanthemum trials there and the daily trials. And this was the standout one for me. Really, really zingy. There's another one called Hadrian's Bubblegum that I've put in the border that's even more, it's sort of even more zingy. But this, I think for me, that's been a really good standout daily for me this year. We've grown
it's a really classy single. It looks, and obviously the videos don't always do justice, but a really strong kind of winey pink.
It's a very interesting thing to do, because if you save your own dahlia seed, I do this every year, and I saved seed this year of one called Magenta Star, which is a variety from the National Dahlia Collection holders down in Devon or Cornwall, wherever they are. And I think I potted up probably about 30 seedlings, but the ones that I picked out initially, I picked out because they got good foliage. It's a dark foliage variety, and they range in regular dahlia foliage to very ferny foliage, which is an attraction.
Yeah.
First one has flowered. Magenta Star is magenta. The first one that flowered was very, very pale pink, because you never know what you're going to get. Because they're pollinated by nature, by the insects and things. So you never know what you're going to get. But it's a fascinating thing to try. And if you can raise something like that dahlia, Hadrian Summerwine.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, if you can raise something like that, just think how satisfying that is.
It is. Do you know what? That's going to bring me on to the next one, which is a bit of a step back. Where is it? There it is. I'm just going to... Which I know you grow, and it leads me on to a few. We talked about this before on the podcast, but I brought it in for another reason. And this obviously is Dahlia merckii, which we did grow from seed. And you'll know, not that many people grow it. It's still, amongst the plant world, people grow Dahlia merckii, but it's not really, and you don't see it everywhere. And I've got no idea why. I got a pack of seeds, however many years ago. And last year we collected lots of seed, and we grew. The seeds germinate. You'll know this. You blink and they germinate. They germinate in about 48 hours, the dahlia seeds. And these were sown on the 19th of February, and we grew 150. A few went in the garden. The ones that were already in the garden came back.
That's the one thing about merckii. It's one of the hardiest dahlias there are.
Hard as nails. I think it's interesting. I think down your way, with it being a bit dry, they'll probably come up a bit early. You get the earliest start. I don't know. Where was it? At Fuller's Mill, their Dahlia merckii that have been in for years were huge. Ours do tend to get nibbled with slugs a little bit when they first come out, and they need a bit of protection. But we grew 150. They went to the nursery, and they went before they're really looking good in the garden. They popped out a few flowers. It's like taking candy off a baby. And it's just utterly, that's not the reason why we did it, obviously, but it's such a delicate thing. And you get variation. You get a paler pinks, you get the darker pinks. Obviously you get the white, which we'll come back to later. But yeah, I think it's a wonderful plant. And again, you get that lovely fern. You get a difference in foliage with the seed, but they're a similar plant, and they look great in borders, they look great in mass, they look great in pots. We've actually got some we call them the tulip pots. They're tall, thin pots at the front, and we feed them pots. They don't get fed in the ground, and it's got Salvia, Cerro Potosi, and it's got Persicaria, Purple Fancy, and Chocolate Cosmos. Anyway, they're absolutely massive. They get fed every week.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they went in as 9-centimetre pots, and they're billowing masses of pink flowers that have been fed. So if you do feed them, they get huge. So yeah, really, really cool plant. It's probably my favourite. It's still my favourite Dahlia is Dahlia merckii.
It's got a really almost luminous quality to the flower. They are beautiful. And it's funny you said about them for sale, because they were looking fabulous in the Yorkgate nursery. And it was funny, I spent so long in the garden with you when I came to visit that the nursery closed and I missed out on buying anything. So I came back 2 days later, just before we came home, en route back to Cambridge. I nipped in and bought a couple of plants, and I was so tempted to buy it, but I was like, no, I must grow it from seed. I'm not allowed to buy this plant. So I did manage to resist, but they were looking cracking.
Well, you can have some seed.
I'm glad I mentioned that. There we go. That was.
I'll tell you something.
Plug.
I'll do better than that, because you've got to come up here and pick up your birthday present. You might find the Dahlia merckii sitting in a pot next to it for you. How's that?
Great. I've got people competing to give me Dahlia. This is fantastic. That's a birthday present in itself. No, wonderful, wonderful Dahlia. You look poised to present something else.
I am. You're all right. Right. So this, I'm not a massive rose. I don't grow lots of roses. We don't grow lots here. I'm more drawn to the single flowers. And I love the moyesii and glauca and species ones. But this is another thing. This is a single, and it looks fairly standard. The reason why I'm showing this. It's a pure white, repeat flowers. It's from a German, I can't remember the name of the nursery. It's called Esquimaux. It's a bugger to get hold of since we left the EU. But I found out where it's from, and I'm going to be getting some bare root this winter. The foliage, I'm going to take a leaf off. Absolutely, we don't treat it with anything. It is blemishless the whole year. It is the most disease resistant, perfect. Nice scent, single flower, repeat flowering, perfect foliage, gets to about 2.5 foot, lovely shape. It just keeps on giving and giving and giving. And it starts flowering in May and it goes till November and just keeps popping out these things. You can see the spent buds there and the ones coming. It just keeps on going. And the healthiest rose I've ever seen. And we don't do anything to it. We don't feed it. We just cut it back in February, January, February, and then just let it go again. But it's such a good do. So that's Esquimaux.
Lovely.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. And I think increasingly, I do like a rose or two. I like a blousy cottage garden rose, but things like, is it Shropshire Lad? So healthy and such lovely, ready new foliage. And it just does my head in when you have horrible black spotted foliage all over your roses. I kind of feel like all those ones just need to go and the healthy ones are allowed in, particularly in a small garden.
Exactly what happened in our rose garden. It did, because the rose garden basically was too hot. And I was digging out roses and 2 ladies came past and said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm digging them out." "Well, where are you going to put those?" I said, "On the bonfire." And they went crazy. They thought I'd gone mad. And they came back later saying, "Can we take them away with us, please?" I was glad to see the back of them, because lots of modern roses are a beautiful flower on the most ugly plant. And what Ben has just demonstrated there with that foliage on Esquimaux is what we want. It's fantastic. And, we don't need all these big, blousy, bright red, shocking pinks and schiaparelli screaming coloured roses. We just want a simple plant that looks nice.
Absolutely. I think that's, again, we're all drawn to different colours and different shapes and things, and the singles and the subtle ones are what draw me. But yeah, I think, you're right. I think good foliage is an absolute must, and this is the one. So if you can get hold of it, good luck. If not, come see me and you can buy one. Right, I'm going to. So this is a bit. It's not the best specimen. But I can't remember which podcast it was where this is a plant. This is one of my Flomos that has now been purchased.
Flomo no more. It's happening.
To be quite honest with you, I don't know why it's not more readily available. It's Muehlenbeckia astonii, and there's a lovely specimen of it at Pan Global when you go into the nursery, just to the right of the door. There's a wonderful specimen there in a big pot that's got a label in. He's never got it for sale, and it just, teases you every time you go in. Really good plant. And, I had a brainwave on that, and I text Jack and I said, Jack, just message Deb's Edney and see if she's got this plant, that ivy hatch plant. And she did. She had a couple of plants, and he said, "Oh, I'll have one and you can have one." I thought, cheeky bugger, I want them both. But anyway, this is Jack. Mine's at home. This is Jack. So we've both got it. But when I was obviously spent a lot of time in New Zealand, this plant's used heavily over there, and you can clip it, and they use it. There's a garden outside of Christchurch where they've recreated a sort of like a traditional herbaceous border, but it's not herbaceous border in plants, but in the style like the 17-foot deep double border long grass strip down the middle, and they've just used native plants, and they clip this heavily into all sorts of shapes, and it's a bit like a Corokia in the way it grows sort of the zigzag.
I thought it was a Corokia when you first produced it.
Yeah, and it's got like that lovely foliage of like the Muehlenbeckia, the rampant climber. But it's not quick growing. It's a lovely, lovely specimen shrub. I mean, the Corokias and Salvias can get massive, can't they? I know you get the little ones. This is a plant I've been after for years, and now I need to work out how to propagate it because I've got one little plant. I think it'll go from hardwood cuttings, but we will see. But yeah, so this is a plant that I really, really admire. Obviously, this is a little plant at the minute, and it's not doing it justice. It's got a tiny leaf, zigzaggy stems. They call it the wiggy wig bush. I think it's common. I mean, why would you not want a plant that's called the wiggy wig bush?
I want it for the name.
You want it for the name, the wiggy wig bush. So that's so I'm really chuffed I've got that, and it's in a litre pot, and hopefully it'll have many happy years growing at Cliffbank, and one at Yorkgate, one at Cliffbank.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
All right. I can't see.
You can't see?
I can't see myself what I look like. You're wobbling.
I'm wobbling. I think it's because I've got a wobbly table.
Yay!
There he is. Oh, I can't hear you.
A very wobbly table this morning.
We've all got wobbly tables, apart from Alan. I can't hear you. Why can't I hear you? Because your microphone is on. I don't. Give you 2 minutes. Hang on. I think we've got you, Ben.
Am I here?
Oh yeah. Hey.
Oh, thank God for that. Collected a few plants. We've had buckets and buckets of rain.
Have you?
Yeah, like the night before last, and then it was raining till about 10 minutes ago. We've had the proper soak through.
I'm so jealous.
Can we have some?
No.